Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Bga Rework Rabbit Hole to Hell. PlayStation 4 symptom is blue flashing light. One of the causes of the failure is due to excessive dust and blocking the fin. So I've got my rework station set up there. Over here I'll be using the Jovi 8500. So first thing first is get a cracking on. Let's remove this. Okay, now let's clear this off. Let's apply flux. I'll be using the Amtech LF4300 this time around. So let's get a cracking on with it. I'm going to go around the edges. Like my last video, I would like the flux to sort of drop through the bottom. Until then, I'll be carry on adding flux. Now the beauty of having PS4 is that there is no two chip. There's one sort of APU built, the GPU and the CPU built into one die. The hot air station is set at about 155 degrees Celsius. Keep applying more flux, which I'm going to do. I may sort of increase the hot air temperature to about 165, which I just did now. I'm going to carry on applying flux until I see it sort of coming down from the opposite side. Or from the bottom, I should say. Oh, I guess you can't see what I'm doing right. My apologies. Let's try and lift the camera up a little bit. There we go. No sign of flux yet on the opposite side. I mean, Amtech flux is one of the best flux you can get on the market. Regardless, it's undisputed. Other aftermarket flux are Kimbo flux. I do enjoy using Kimbo flux. The beauty of Kimbo flux is once you apply onto a surface, you can sort of target the area many times. You do not need to reapply solder. The flux itself, and I'll sort of demonstrate it on another video. Whereas with the Amtech or any other flux, you've got to once you've had the solder tip onto the point couple of times, you've got to reapply flux. But with the Kimbo, you can go on for a little bit longer without the necessary of adding more flux. Okay, so no joy yet. I'm going to carry on. Oops. I'm going to carry on until I can see traces of flux coming from the opposite side. and I think we're just about reaching that. Yes, I can certainly see. Sorry that the camera won't let you see that, but yes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is one more time I'm going to sort of go around all four corners and apply flux. That'll do brilliantly. I don't know if you can pick up the camera. The white glaze on the top of this is that white glaze. What you can just see just about is the flux. So I can get a better view because it's a clear flux. I mean, obviously you're going to struggle to see it. Right. Okay. So well, let's move over to the rework system. Okay. Stupid microscope is attached to a flexi cable, and because of that you can see this movement. Okay, so I'm going to try and realign the microscope and see if I can get any closer. Okay, right, let me find something that I can sort of I don't want the microscope touching directly onto the hot plate, otherwise it'll bloody cause a lot of nightmare for me. So I need something that I can leave it underneath it, and maybe this might do it. Okay, so let's sort of leave this. I did do the setting before, but I think something happened and it's moved. Okay, so I think we are just twiddle around with the brightness of the LED and see whether we can get a decent view. Then we'll just leave it to that. To move this, well, of course you've got to see the curve. Right, okay, let's get cracking on with the profile side of it now. I've just been messing about with the settings on the Open Broadcaster. let's see if I can or maybe try and putting it on the top. Like this, and see if I can achieve a better angle. Just try and increase the sorry people, just stay tuned. Just trying to, I did complete the setting prior, but I don't know what's happened. Something went wrong. Okay, and let's reset the zooming. It's crap. I think that's as good as we're going to get with it. Okay, so and stupidly enough, I've misaligned. I've not lined up the PCB with the laser pointer here. The laser pointer needs to be on the center. I'm going to push the board backward, okay, and make sure that it lines up with the laser point. Okay, and I think we're good to go. Right, okay, so the next bit I'm going to do is placing the thermocouple just literally away. These thermocouples are very thin and very, very sensitive. So if you want them, I'll leave a link in the description below. Very, very tiny thermocouple, which I enjoy using because they're very sensitive, and you get a very good accurate reading. But it can be a bit of a pain on the bomb trying to sort of place them, with it being with them having a sort of a very fine tip. And these flexi things, I've got them from eBay through an American seller. Roughly about, with postage, probably about between, I think it was about £20. See, I'm wiggling with this thermocouple. You know, this is the thing I hate about them. But once they're on, you're good to go. Okay, I think we're just about okay here. Right, let's not sort of mess about with it. Okay, so that's done beautifully. Let's move the upper heater in place. Oi, you keep away there, mate. I've got a custom built extractor fan, which okay, and lower the upper heater to about level Mark 5 on the BGA system. Turn the extractor fan. I have to do this because it's a bit risky. There will be a little background noise, which I do sort of apologise, but there's nothing you can do. Safety comes first, so always wear a protective glove, especially when you're handling flux. And secondly, have most importantly, have an extractor fan if you're up against using rework systems and soldering and things like that. Still having a bit of a trouble sort of lining up this thermocouple. The thing to remember with these thermocouples is because they're dead fine, you do not want to poke them under the BGA chip, otherwise you're up for a reballing, and that would be a pain in the ass. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to have to sort of shrink this, unfortunately, because I don't think you're getting the best sort of a... There's a standard profile what we'll be running on the Jovi, which is set at here. Preheat up to 150, soak ends at 190, and then the peak temperatures 235, and to hold peak temperature 235 for about 20 seconds, which I won't be doing that actually. That's just for default sort of a thing, so just going to leave it like this. Okay guys, let's sort of crack on with the profile now. Okay. What happens when I move? Oh, right, okay, so I can't move this shit. Okay, right, let's start. It gives you a sort of a warning thing here. Process time 10 minutes, 235. You do not process for 10 minutes. I'm going to stop the profile as soon as the chip is sort of loose, liquidous, and it moves. And I'll show you in a minute once towards the end of the profile what I mean by that. Run fan after profile, yes, that's absolutely fine, and hit OK. Here we go. You probably just about see, I might sort of realign the camera a little bit this way so you can actually see what I'm doing with the solder pick. Yep. That's brilliant, fantastic. Now we're just going to have to sort of hang fire. What's going on here now? Oh, fuck shit. Fuck shit. What a stupid arsehole I am. I've not even connected the thermocouple. No wonder the profile wasn't sort of working properly. I take the connectors off every time because of the risk of somebody sort of nudging onto it. The rework machine is sort of leaping out onto the edge of the worktop, so for that reason I actually did that. Okay, and let's start this again. Warning, off we go. So because the thermocouple wasn't sort of connected, unfortunately, the profile will not start. And I just pray to God that the camera doesn't stop working. I just need to know. Let me see if I can get more light under the chip, because the solder balls have, before it was okay, but because I've added flux, the solder balls have actually sort of gone a bit wonky, so that seems good enough this, but let's sort of see if I can put this light somewhere where and unfortunately I don't think I'll be successful in doing that. No, I don't think I will be, not by the look of this. Let's try that one more time. No, fuck no. Okay, we're gonna leave this. Right, so we reached on one of the thermal couple 103, 4 and 198 degree Celsius. I am not picking the phone up. What you see here is the dark infrared heater in sort of like a red or purple, pink, whatever colour that you can see on your screen. Hello?
Hello there, is that Mr. Udin?
Who's calling, please?
Yeah, just so you know, it's Mike calling from TCO in conjunction with Usage. We're looking to do the annual review.
Right, sorry, I'm just in the middle of a work actually. Could you sort of, have I spoken to you before? Right, all right. We're in a contract at the moment with the company for up to 3 years. So, right. I really appreciate for your phone call. Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of repairing a PS4 board on a rework system, and if I sort of, sorry to say this, but if I screw this up, I have to answer back to the customer why I did what I did. So I'm really sorry, but I can't speak to yourself right now. Yes, you have actually. Yes. All right. Right. Okay, doke. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye. What a fucking moron! Ringing up to try and save me money. I was under the impression that there's been law passed where companies as such can't sort of ring on a landline, but funny enough they have. I do get calls on my mobile, but for a little while it all stopped. Don't know why they've started sort of calling back again. Right, we're reaching about 200 degrees Celsius. Now what you want to do, guys, is, I don't think I've come across with anybody mentioning this on the rework side of it. When you reach about 215, 215 say, you want to turn your extractor fan off and keep silent. And the reason being for this is to sort of avoid, you want to hear if there is any sort of crack or pop from the chip. If you hear a crack or a pop from the chip, that means that your chip is fucked. Right, what I'm doing now is I'm gently nudging onto the chip to see if the chip is all liquidous. As soon as that happens, I'm going to switch off the profile. What we're on now? 228. See, the chip is moving. Yes, the chip is moving, so I'm going to stop the profile, turn the extractor fan back on, move the upper heater away from the chip. I do not want to expose any further heat onto the chip itself, and that is it. Let the chip cool down. The nudging was very slight, because what you've got to bear in mind is the pitch between the solder balls, and if you nudge it too far, or too much I should say, the likelihood of you sort of bridging the solder balls underneath the BGA chip is quite high. So now what I'm going to do is, since the temperature's dropped by about 20 degrees, what it is I don't want to introduce the fan immediately after the the reflow attempt, because you're introducing thermal shock. Whether that matters or not, to me it does. So I do not want to implement any sort of or introduce any sort of thermal shock onto the chip itself. So now I'll probably just turn the fan on manually. And let the board sort of cool off. See, the horrible thing with PS3 generation, that you've had to use anti-warp jig to try and ensure that the board doesn't warp. Whereas with this, if you lay the board the way I've done it here, with the bar sort of going across here and as the support bar of the Joe V8500 and the bar here, there's no need for an anti-warp jig. But with the PS3 generation, doesn't matter how you put it, the fucking board used to sort of warp regardless. We're going to wait for the temperature to cool down. It's coming down to about 153. Just a quick chat about the Bga chips and what I was on about this turning off the extractor fan towards the end of the profile process. Basically, this is going through practical experience. Tired. I am very tired. I have killed many chip in the past, but that's non-customer's board. While I was sort of learning how to do rework, I bought scrap faulty boards off eBay for cheap, as little as £5 a board, £3 a board, or bought a bulk of boards and start sort of practicing. Because the best way to learn is to do it yourself. You can buy this from a supplier, Insat International, in London. But the gentleman's a very nice person, don't get me wrong. He'll give you 4 hours training. As I've mentioned to yourself, that 4 hours is not sufficient. You need to sort of sit down and figure out how the machine operates. You need to understand the reflow process from start till finish, in terms of sort of prepping the board, applying the flux, then sort of setting up your profile on the machine, and sort of having a general idea. So do a bit of research on the internet, do a bit of research on the YouTube. You'll find a lot more videos about this, and just practice until you understand what you're dealing with. Bga Rework is a rabbit hole to hell. There's no doubt about this. But what you have to sort of bear in mind is, if you know what you're doing, the chances are higher of succeeding on either a reflow attempt or on a reball attempt. Just wait for the temperature to cool down before sort of removing the board from the machine. And as you can see, that the solder balls are more visible than before, purely because of the fact that there you go, there was flux underneath it. So I was wondering why that was the case. And quite obviously it was the fact that the flux covered distracted the visibility. But you can quite clearly see the solder ball now. Sat quite nicely. And I'm going to remove one of the thermal couple because there's no need for this. I'm going to give it a quick clean with IPA, the tip of the thermal couple, because once the IPA sort of dries off, sorry, the flux dries off, it's hard, and then you've got to mess about a bit longer to try and clean the tip. Now, on my previous video, I was sort of demonstrating about the height of the chip. Okay, so if you've suffered from a board warp, what you will see is the height of the chip from the PCB is not going to be equal like this. So as you can see at the top here, going across, I'm going to sort of move the microscope over, and as you can see that the chip is sat flat evenly onto the surface of the PCB, which effectively means, and I'll be checking all four corners, which effectively means that I haven't suffered a board warp. Board warp is nasty job. Sometimes you struggle to sort of you know, put the board back into its shape. And unfortunately, if that is the case, then that job is gone. Failed attempt. Right, so we've gone to, alright, okay, because I've taken the thermal couple off, it's sort of reached, well, showing as a default room temperature of 27 degrees, which is not necessary. So what I'm going to do anyway, let's stop all this now. I'm going to move this microscope. So wait, thermal couple, undo the tapes. Okay, let me just sort of change the... There we go, that's better. Let's move this tape. The reason why I put them is just so that as I'm nudging the chip, I don't want the board to move. Or just in general, I don't want the board to move. Okay, so let's get back here. Okay, I wonder why. No, I'm not messing about with this. Okay, sorry, I was just checking some messages what I've received, and missed call I should say I've got, and I've not sort of picked up my phone, so I've got 4 missed calls, which is good because I do not want to be distracted while doing this. And my glove ripped. Cheap fucking bullshit gloves that I bought off eBay. They tear like foil. So if you're buying these, buy plenty, because most likely you'll be on one single attempt of repair, you'll be sort of having few pair utilised. So there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to peel these off. Let's get a set of tweezers. The only reason why I put them on is although that you've got a plate under the Jovi upper heater to sort of you know, it comes with the Jovi itself anyway, just to sort of cover certain areas that you don't want the heat to be exposed. So the plate's quite big, but it's got a hole in the centre. I don't know if I can show you what I'm on about. I should be able to. I've got them here. All the rest of the plates I have. They come with the machine anyway. There's various sizes. I'm on about this, the heat shield, I should say, or whatever it is. I can't remember the correct name for it. It's fairly big, the one I've got, just so that I want to expose the heat as far as possible. And the reason being for this is just so that to achieve the solder to become liquidous, you need to expose as much heat to the PCB as possible, and as a result of that I use a slightly bigger, so I don't want to expose any heat which on the RAM. So therefore what I did is I actually sort of covered the RAM. I did apply a bit of a Kapton tape on the surface of the GPU. Now I'm going to try and clean off as much as I can, and let's turn. Right, that fan running on the background is the fan for the Jovi cooling thing. It's an internal fan, so I can't stop that. And as I've said in my previous video, do not turn the machine off for at least an hour. Let it cool down. There's no harm in leaving it on, apart from the fact that it might sort of consume a bit of electricity, that's all, but your machine will last a hell of a long time. Like with anything, any electronics, you look after it, it'll look after you back. You start pissing around with it, it will piss back on you. I mean, the funny thing is, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, why do they fail? Has any, why? Because, I mean, the manufacturers, if they build something to last a lifetime, then no profit margin, very little profit margin for them. People won't go out and buy new machines. People won't send them for repair to them. So these days, everything built on sort of disposable, short-term use, get rid of it. Gonna go around it one more time. I'm a clean freak, so once I've attempted a rework, I want to make sure that the board looks as good as almost new, and no residues left on it. Okay, I think the video's got too long, so I'm going to sort of move on quickly onto. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out with Amtech flux and any type of flux is not baby food. This is expired since 2012 and I've been using it absolutely fine. The thing to do is to refrigerate this on a cooler. I have a cooler above me, and basically I sort of leave all my flux and chemicals inside that. As I said, it's not baby food. If it expires, you can still use it. Just keep it refrigerated or in the chiller. Rightio, let's crack on with the. Right, these screws are from the thingy. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do now is, oops, I've disconnected the Jovi wire accidentally. Stupid me. That was stupid of me. Right, I'm going to have to undo this. Let's sort of sort this out. Solder pick can go back. Let's get a decent amount of thermal paste. Which one am I going to use? The MX4. Get rid of the thermal. Just bear with me, somebody's knocking on the door, I guess, so stay tuned. I'm just going to go off the microphone for a bit. Just bear with me. Thank you. Right, I'm back now. That's okay. Nothing to worry about. Well, guess what I did before when this moron rang me? I told him a bit of a porcupine. I told him, as you probably heard, that I'm in the middle of a rework attempt and I do not want to be interrupted. What I'm doing is, sorry, on a change of subject, I'm checking the chip to ensure that the chip hasn't sort of lifted on the edges. So let me see if I can get a focus on that daft thing. Probably end up with get it doing a manual focus. So let me see if I could do that. Camera control, and I can zoom in. Let's just see if I can do that. It's got an autofocus on, which I absolutely fucking hate it. There's something, I fucking hate this piece of shit. Let's find out what's going on with this little. Okay, I'm messing about with the setup here, so I don't want to waste too much of you guys' time. Okay, enough time's wasted here. Okay, so as you can see here, that's much better. As you can see here, basically the chip is laid flat, and it decided to sort of fuck up the zoom again, focus again. Right, sorry guys, I'm gonna have to sort of move this back to what it was. Okay, so as you can see here, the chip is lying flat, nice and evenly. Let's move on to the other corner. Same. I'm going to throw this camera away at some point. And then same here. It's on an auto focus, but it still sort of pisses around with it for some reason. And again, the Jovi fan came on and went off again. So let me put this on a apply. Okay. And off you go. Right, so I'm sorry, the camera's playing up for some reason anyway. So as you can see that it's nicely sort of leveled here, and on the final side of it, again, it's nicely leveled here. So enough of this. Now what I'm going to do is apply a bit of thermal paste. And use my thermal spreader to sort of spread the thingy, but just before doing so, I'd like to just give it a quick sort of a clean onto the surface of the chip itself with some 100% IPA. Make it nice and shiny. There's no harm in doing that. Okay, doke. Okay, beautiful. Let's get a bit closer. You can see what I'm doing. I'll run a line of thermal paste just to, and then sort of use my heat spreader to spread the thermal paste on the surface of the APU, or the GPU stroke CPU. Going to turn around and well, I have been turning around and apply, cover the entire surface, and that's done beautifully. Okay, all it is just a card cut to this, and that's it. So, and I hope you didn't get the info printed onto this card. I'm a little bit of a camera shy person, which is why you don't sort of see my face. Leave a little blob on the top. Okay, and the reason being for that is if there's any area where a thermal paste hasn't applied properly, that's my insurance policy, that will just cover it beautifully. Okie dokie. Right, okay, so now I've got to move on to sort of reassembling the unit back together. But before doing so, I've got to clean the fin. So let's move this board over to somewhere else for and then right, I'll grab me Hoover. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention as I was talking to you, I fobbed this guy off who rang me about saving money on my electricity bill. By saying things that I shouldn't have said. So hopefully I'll never hear anything from him again. I'm looking for my brush and I've got the Hoover, so it'll be a bit noisy because I'm turning the Hoover. Look at that friggin' thick. Oh my god. Oh my god. That is horrible. That is just horrible. That was a massive layer of dust. The funny thing is, I mean, if the fan system was working slightly faster, maybe the fins won't have the chance to sort of grab hold onto the dust and build up over time. Now, I understand that Sony would like customer experience to be as brilliant as possible, but to a certain degree, that the console, sorry, is running on a higher temperature. So ideally, they should sort of it is sort of controlled by sensors and whatever the thing is. I can't sort of think of the right term correctly now. PWM, whatever, control sort of a thing. So as the temperature rises, the fan speed should sort of increase. But unfortunately, I don't think they've done a good of a job here, because the temperature of these consoles are running in excess of 65-70 degrees Celsius. So yes, it will sort of damage the processor. Oops. No. I've just started cleaning the metal steel frame, and I think I've dropped some thermal pads. No, fuck off. Oh, I hate this. Every fucking time I do this, I end up fucking losing thermal pads. Every fucking time I do this, I just don't get my head. I can't get my fucking head around it. I just can't get it, guys. Every time I do this and I lose thermal pads, and I'm really annoyed now at the moment, because now I've got to sort of find those pads, and if I can't find them, I'm going to have to replace them with something similar to it, which is not a problem, because I have plenty of thermal pads lying around. No big deal. No big deal. Let me see, what if it's under the chip, the opposite side, which is not. So what I'll do then in that case is to that's a fucking wiggly this wiggles. Oh my god, I didn't notice that before. Right, let's put this CMOS battery back in. Right, let's cut out 2 thermal pads. That's what we'll be using. Because I forgot 2 missing. At one time I struggled to find these thermal pads. But managed to get them off the internet soon after. But the thing to remember with these pads is make sure that you take the both side of the clear protective off immediately, because there has been instances where in the past where I've actually forgot to take it off, and as I was doing a burn-in test on, like for example, the laptop repairs, I come to discover the fact that the burn-in test failed immediately after. So I had to strip down the whole thing over again and redo sort of take off the clear coating off the thermal pad. So time loss, of course. You know, talking about time, money, time is money, especially when you're doing repairs. I charge £20, £19.99 to have diagnose the system. There's no such a thing as free estimate. I don't believe in that dilemma. I'm not going to work hours up and hours troubleshooting system, and then people give people an estimate of how much it'll be, and then that particular person's sort of going to turn around and say, okay, sorry, no, we've decided not to fix it, and you tell them what the problem is. You've already told them what the problem is. So for that reason, I don't believe in the fact that free estimate. I charge them £20. Now that £20 does get waived, providing that they don't decline the estimate, and the estimate has to be a reasonable price. You know, you've got to be fair with people. You can't be ripping people off. So as long as I'm within my sort of limit, and the customer sort of declines the estimate, before they take away the machine, they have to pay the £20 fee. Okay, so what I was doing off camera, stupidly enough, I didn't realise that I wasn't recording, is I replaced those thermal pads because I don't know what I've dropped them. Look, that just moved. So I don't want to replace them. It's too time consuming, sort of a thing. But the bloody things are dropping off like anything. Is that stuck? They're all right. Right, you can fuck off. I'll just replace you. So don't believe in sort of free estimates, because I'll tell you something, there's trolls out there that'll fucking do you. You'll spend an hour, or less or more, whatever, and you do an estimate. You tell them what the problem is, and they'll walk away thinking, right, okay, we know what the fault is, so I'll sort of repair it myself. I mean, for example, hard drive failure. So I'll test the drive, and say for instance the operating system's not loading. What do you do? The first thing I would do is try and run a quick test on the drive and see if the drive is bad. If the drive sort of fails on the quick test, then basically you know that the drive is knackered. It'll come up with a fail error straight away. Usually my routine of repair is to sort of run a full hard drive test and a RAM memory test. That's what I would do if a system came in with sort of is turning on but it's not loading onto Windows. But my primary target would be the hard drive. Okay, I'm going to run. Did I take the Hoover back? I did, didn't I? So I'm not going to bother with that then, unfortunately. And there we go, these sneaky little pads that are appearing from here and there now, so which is an absolute complete waste because I'm not going to use them. Rightio. Okay, let's put this back in its place. It's held by 3 screws, which are located there, and there was one somewhere there. So all 3 along the line here. I'm going to turn my dinky screwdriver. It's it spins too fast. Even at a lower setting it spins quite fast, so you got to be careful. You got to be careful while you're using this, if you buy one. I haven't got time. I mean, it's quick, it's fast, it does the job to a certain degree. I haven't got time to sort of mess around with screws. Okay, so the CMOS battery's in. Should I test the battery and see if the battery is 3.3 volt? Sorry, 3 volt, I should say 3.3 volt. Where did I get that from? That's probably trolling me from motherboard repair on the laptop. So let's have a look and see what voltage we have here. See if we can. I'll put that to the ground, and 3.0 volt. We're happy with that, that's fine. I like this multimeter, absolutely cracking multimeter actually. Agilent is one of the world's leading manufacturer for testing gears and oscilloscope, so on and so forth. You can't fault these guys. You cannot fault these guys. They are one of the bests. Right, okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Right, okay, brilliant. Thermal pads on, the CMOS batteries on. Anything else that I need to pay attention to? I did check the HDMI port. There's nothing wrong with the HDMI port. It's absolutely fine. Even the pin, the connector, and internal connector is absolutely fine. There's nothing sticking out. There's a lot of, funny enough, there's a lot of repair on these at the moment coming through. Okay. So let's put the board back in its place. Oops, wrong way around, wrong way, get up, shut, you piece of shit. I've got to insert this side first. Fully, and then drop the board down. Okay, okay. Let's turn the thingy around. And I still have those pads sat in its place. They're just to cool off the memory, while someone's bashing the PS4, kicking the shit out of the PS4. Under the manufacturer's recommendation, I think every 3 hours per day, and to sort of let this system cool off for approximately 10-15 minutes per hour, if I'm not mistaken. But do you think any of the gamers, including my son, would put that in practice? No, I don't think so. Right, unfortunately the video will be a bit long because I need to put everything back together. So hopefully stay tuned, and I will sort of do my very best to put things back together as quickly as possible. Let me grab my little tray with all the bits and bobs in. Let's get everything up, get everything else close by so I can grab them, so I don't have to sort of go for my chair. And the covers, alright, the Blu-ray drive can go after, no big deal. Right, so I'm going to put back the tension plate for the APU. And I'm not going to use the drill, I'm going to use my hand with this, because the drill is too quick. Go from one end to the other end. What happened there? Please, in the name of God, don't tell me that the system crashed or something happened. I didn't press anything on the thingy, that PC just sort of... I hope I've not been hacked. The browser just opened up all by itself. I hope I've not been hacked, as I said before, because I'll be coming out with a sledgehammer and find out the hacker, and I'll be taking them down physically. No, come back here. See, the thing I hate about working in this room is basically I tend to drop screws, and when I drop them, the whole thing just goes to another sort of dimension or another planet. It just disappears. It just literally disappears, and you can't find a screw. You can do whatever, but you will not find that particular screw. I've been lucky enough to get this, but usually I'm very unlucky. Right, one of the problems that I've come across with the PS4 is the tray, sort of the disc sort of ejects all of a sudden, and it's a sort of, you're playing and then 10-15 minutes goes past and the disc itself just ejects all by itself. And the reason being for this is these little, let me just make sure I put all the screws back in before sort of moving on to a different topic. Right, okay, yeah. This is your touch sensitive circuitry for your ejecting your power. Okay, there's one here and one sort of under the bod, which I've now sort of, I won't be able to sort of show it to you because I've put the, where is it? Hang on. It's underneath the PCB. There's one on the top and one underneath it, basically. And sorry, you didn't get that. So one on the top and one underneath. And I've just recently done a video on it actually, or sort of a repair on it actually. And the problem was that it's static. There was a lot of dust around the actual sort of on these and the actual touch connector. So what I had to just blast all that off. And then put the unit back together, and it seemed to have sort of cured the problem. So if you've got an issue with the PS4 where the disc is ejecting randomly, what I would advise you to do is sort of strip it down and maybe clean off the contacts and see if that would sort of resolve the problem. Righty, oh, okay, doke, that's done. All the screws are in place. Now I'll turn the console upside down. The Blu-ray ROM is going to get put back in its place. No. As I was just talking to you about, I've just tilted the thingy and dropped 3 screws, but thankfully they're on the desk. Okay, just make sure that everything's okay here, that there's not a lot of dust. Put this back in its place. Before doing so, you've got to sort of, there's a hidden screw here, hiding just under the stupid cable. Oops, forgot to put the Wi-Fi antenna on. Okay, and then that can go with the hand screw. So that's been done. Now I've got to feed this cable around, hook it onto the board, and then the Wi-Fi connector can go back on it. Okay, and then the Blu-ray ribbon that can go back on. Right, so happy days, that's done. There's just that screw's been applied back on. This is secured properly. Right, I'm going to sort of grab the power supply, which I have here. Okay, and then get the power supply back in its place. Firmly press it down, and then put the screws back on. And I did forget to put the screw back on this side of the Blu-ray. And stupidly enough, I made huge mistake, which effectively means that I'm going to have to take the power supply back off. There we go, guys. The Jovi's fan just kicked in. I've not done anything with the machine. The machine's just been sat there doing nothing, just idling, and then the fan just kicks in. So as I said many times over and over and over again, and you're probably going to hate me for saying this again, is to leave the Jovi on. I forgot to put this connector on. People, and advice to people who are in ITs and working for themselves or in a computer repair or any electronic repair, is you need to relax. You need to relax, take things easy, don't overwork yourself. I've done it. I've ended up with a number of health issues because of that. And my strong advice to people who are in electronic repairs is to sort of basically just relax and take things easy. Don't overwork yourself. Don't do silly hours like I have been doing. Because all you're going to do is just sort of knacker yourself. You won't realise sort of if you're in it sort of in your early 20s, the burst of energy you have will make you feel like you can sort of you can sort of climb up to the sky. You know, I felt like that. Now, hitting my sort of 30s, I sort of realised that I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done this because I'm absolutely worn out. It feels like I'm tired. You know, when I'm doing jobs what I used to do, I'm half sort of productive, not because I can't do the job. It's just the fact that your body can tolerate so much battering, and I think I've battered my body to an extent where it's had enough, really. And most importantly, I'm aging, I'm growing, old, so quite obviously that's going to be an impact. That, but this is what I was on about. This little connector was on my previous job. This little thing was actually was the cause of the CD sort of randomly ejecting and things like that. So that's the bottom sort of tray thing. So just make sure that when you sort of take the bottom panel off, and then clean the contacts and just put it back together, and you should be okay with it. This is the bottom contact. This is actually the where the fan allocated is. Basically that's where this contact. So let me see. Didn't get that. I don't think you got that, did you? Okay. And you camera, don't fall off. Okay. This is the contact. Clean that with IPA. Clean this bit here, and you should be all right. Right, okay. So that's all in. That's everything's back together. There's nothing sort of missing out. I hope not. I'm just giving it a final check and make sure that everything is where it should be, because I don't want to strip it back down again. And did I tighten this screw tight enough? Yes, they are. That's your retention plate for the heatsink, so make sure that they are tight. Okay, so let's get cracking on with this now. You know something, I can't remember if I've cleaned this, but I'll do the bottom's done. So you slide the front in first and then drop the back. So you slide the front in, this bit in, and then sort of slide the bottom. Okay, so I did sort of take the screws down because sometimes I tend to sort of forget where the screws were, You probably think I'm stupid, but there's so much I can do. End of. Okay, let's get the screwdriver. I hope it's still recording. It is. Okay, done. Okie dokie. Right, moment of truth. Okay, so I'm going to sort of let me see if I can set the camera up on this side. Just bear with me, guys. This is my test bench. Let's raise this a little bit further. Get a bit closer. Move this chair. And then the moment of truth. The moment of truth. Plug in the HDMI cable. Okay. Power on. TV's coming on. And I'm going to take my gloves off. There's no need for that. Is it a rabbit hole to hell? Let's find out. It's got blue flashing light and the display. Voila! There we go, guys. So white light, and it's asking me to connect the dual shock controller. So that's it. So this time around, it's not been a rabbit hole to hell. It's been a successful repair, yes, the actual cause of the blue blinking light was due to the GPU itself. So, as I said in my previous videos, Bga Rework is a rabbit hole to hell, basically, at time to time. So we have been quite successful with this time around. The thing to sort of bear in mind is basically, I'll put the camera down. The thing to bear in mind is basically, there was a time back in 2000, sort of early 2000, sort of or mid 2000, where there was a lot of DV2000 up to 9000 series laptop that had a massive amount of GPU failure, and the chipsets were NVIDIA chipsets. That were failing on them. NVIDIA has actually owned up to the fact that they had issues with the chip and things like that. So the workflow of Bga Rework was quite high. People have made a lot of money back in those days who had a rework system. But saying that, the rework systems were quite expensive on those days. You're talking in excess of several thousand, probably about £5,000–10,000 for a rework system. So this, I mean, I've had the Jovi for quite a few years now. Well, yeah, the Jovi 8500. I had the Jovi 7500 previously, which is an absolute piece of shit because the bottom heater is dinky. For example, look at the sheer size of this. This is big. This is a big heater. And when you're reworking, you are expected to have, sorry, let me just get around this cable. You are expected to have heat losses through the PCB. So if you have a dinky lower heater, which I believe is 120 mil, the lower heater for the Jovi 7500, versus this, which is probably 4 times bigger than the 7500. This is a far better rework system. It's not expensive compared to some of, like, there are other better rework systems out there, but I wouldn't pay anything. I think this is a cracking piece of machine. Why do I have a hot air station? I have a hot air station just on guard, basically. So should this fail, or it goes into repair, I have something else so I can carry on with the workflow, sort of a thing. And I picked it up for a fairly sort of reasonable price. Again, I think this may have been discontinued from Insat International, but go on their website and I'm pretty sure you'll find them. I think insatinternational.co.uk, I believe that's what the website is, and you can buy all the BGA gears, all the rework stuff, including genuine Amtech flocks, genuine Goot Week, high temperature solder wires, all sorts. Just check it out. I'll leave a link below in the description, and just check it out yourself, and you'll be thrilled to find that he does sort of supply a lot of BGA. I mean, in fact, he specialises in BGA rework. If you've got any questions or something like that, ring him up. You're speaking to Jimmy, ask for Jimmy, and he will sort of help you out as much as he can. He's a dead nice guy. When I go down London, I sort of go and visit him on a random sort of a thing. So that's that. Going back onto here now, the PS3 is still sort of functioning, okay, with the white light, and it's asking me for the dual control. Now, going back onto one little sort of subject about BGA rework, I understand the fact that BGA rework can be bullshit at time to time. Hence, the machine is not. There was a time when people were saying, right, okay, BGA rework market is dead. There's no need to invest on a rework system, and so on and so forth. I think that's just a bull crap, and the reason being for this is because as technology progresses these days, most IC are sort of made with BGA, so you'll never ever sort of regret buying a system like that, like for the Jovi 8500, because I think, you know, the jobs will be coming. The PS4s, Xbox One, they're all also again with the GPU and the CPU BGA chip. So, you know, this was a typical example of sort of, you know, we're in 2016 now, and I'm still sort of using a BGA system. I've reflowed a PS4, and it seems to be working absolutely fine. So thank you for watching, and I hope you sort of picked up with some tips and advices what I've sort of shown you. But as I said many times after, go for a Jovi 8500. You will not regret it. If you've got any questions, just leave a comment below, and I'll try and get back to you. Thank you for watching.